Okay, thank you for sticking with us post-screening. We are honoured here today to have the writer and director of Don't Cry Butterfly. Lynn, what a pleasure. Can you give us a short introduction about yourself?
Hi everyone, thank you so much for watching Don't Cry Butterfly and staying here to listen to our Q&A. My name is Linh, I'm Vietnamese and I'm the writer director of Don't Cry Butterfly. I'm currently in Vancouver, Canada, and I'm taking a master degree in film production and creative writing. Very nice to meet you guys.
Everyone go, hi. So, Lynn, I am absolutely honoured to be with you digitally today, and it just feels like such a privilege. But first of all, I want to say congratulations for Don't Cry Butterfly receiving several Viet Film Fest nominations, which is such a well-deserved recognition of your work. So I feel like there's so much to unpack in this film, and I wish I had like 2-3 hours or even a whole day with you to ask you everything that's swirling in my mind. But for now, I'm going to be very specific for our audiences here. And speaking of audiences, I'd love to talk about audience reception. So I was fortunate enough, which we discussed just a little bit earlier, that I saw the film when it premiered in Vietnam in Hanoi. And I was astounded to see that the whole cinema was full. And they were coming to see a film that wasn't a mainstream blockbuster. And it was such a special experience for me because I've been studying and following Vietnamese cinema for so many years. So I don't know how that felt for you. So now that you're showing it to diasporic audiences here who carry both closeness and distance to Vietnam, how do you imagine these audiences at home and abroad will receive and interpret the film differently? Now, I know that this is a bit of a tricky question because filmmakers don't always predict audience reactions, but I'd love to hear if you've already noticed any contrasts or if you're curious yourself.
Mm, I've traveled with the film to a lot of countries. Not only during the post screening of the film, but also I think there's the similarity in the reaction of the audience or the people who have heard about the project even before it was made in different countries across the world. I've been to Europe and East Asia and Southeast Asia and also North America. Um, I would say it's very interesting to watch the audience reaction because we all come from different cultural background, and there are a lot of details in the film that are very specific to North Vietnam Mixed culture. But I was surprised. I guess because the subject matter of the film, the issue with infidelity, and the whole problem with women being unable to communicate their needs are very common everywhere. It's just that that the whole voodoo thing is kind of specific. But so I feel that the audience everywhere, they get the gist of the story, and they also all feel connected to the main character. It's just so funny that in specific countries, for example, East Asia country like Taiwan or Hong Kong, the majority of people who asked the questions were male audience, which is very interesting. They all said that they felt connected so much to the husband. And the husband, it is very different because like in Westerner countries, they will ask, "Oh, why is the man so quiet?" But in Asian culture, I feel that especially like those who grow up in the patriarchal culture,
Yeah.
they immediately get the disconnection between the men and their family. All the pressure and the fact that they cannot communicate properly.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I thought that would be very interesting. Yeah.
So interesting. I wonder how all the male and females and non-binary in the audience are actually thinking about questions they would ask you. That's so fascinating because when I was watching, I wasn't really, my questions weren't about the male character. So I'd love to hear a little bit more about what other audiences were asking. But maybe we'll park that because I'd love to now go into ritual versus confrontation, because one of the most striking creative choices is that Thumb responds to her husband's affair through ritual rather than confrontation. And it's
Mhm.
so unusual, quiet, layered, and not melodramatic. I'd love
Mhm.
to understand like your choice with this approach and what you hope audiences understand about its effects on Tam, the character, and her relationships.
Mm, well, I would say that my main focus for the film is how, the women are too used to um, keeping their needs and their wants and their feelings inside for whatever reason, right? I mean, growing up as a Vietnamese woman myself, I was always told to put others' needs first and
Mm,
don't be selfish. Like if you communicate what you want, then it'll be so selfish. Um, and you have to put like prioritize the peace in the family and also the happy facade that everyone would interpret or everyone would think about your family. So you have to hide all the flaws of your family behind smiles, and you're not supposed to talk about it. Um, and it's I think it's become like this. It translates to this passive aggressive kind of behavior.
mm,
Where I'm sure anyone who grew up with a Vietnamese mom would relate to this, because like, I want this but I don't want to talk about it, but you're supposed to know that I need it, and but I can't talk about it directly. You are supposed to guess what I want. And I feel that because of that, when it comes to this problem, this specific problem in the film, the infidelity, when it takes place, it's very difficult for the main character to communicate that with the person that's supposed to be closest to her, which is the husband.
mhm,
I feel that it's something that has been going on for a while. The quiet tension, and then the miscommunication or the non-existent communications between the couple has been going on for a while, and therefore she can't communicate what she wants with the husband, or can't even confront him. And that is why she went to look for something else.
mhm,
And for me, the rituals or the voodoo or whatever not that she choose to do, it's not so much about what she does, but it's more like it being a channel for her to
mm,
kind of vent out whatever that she couldn't communicate out to
mm,
her husband. So it's like, when you are in a moment of weakness, or when you've lost your ways in such, if that makes sense, or when you do not know what to do with all this emotion, or do not know what to do with your life, it's very necessary for you to find a channel to vent it out. And many
mhm,
people will choose different ways. Some people become angry.
mhm,
Some people will find friends, but in the case of married women who have devoted their entire life to their family, it's very hard um,
mm,
to be able to find friends at this age. and
mm.
and also, even if you have friends, you're not supposed to talk about it, because
Yeah,
it's something embarrassing, it's shameful, it's not something that you can easily tell somebody that
yeah,
that's why they fall for the trick of people that they don't know.
mhm,
Sometimes it's easier and safer to talk to a stranger than the people who are close to you. And I guess that's the case here.
yeah,
So that's why I chose this approach.
mm,
And also partly because I grew up in an environment where people are very superstitious and very spiritual. So I was brought to temples, and
mhm,
a lot of, this kind of, okay, kids were not allowed in rituals places.
mhm.
But I've heard about things being done with magic. And I mean, as a kid, when I heard about it, it's very fascinating. It was like, yo, voodoo, and like, communicate with another realm. But you're not allowed in because you're a kid. So I was always very curious, and then I guess that kind of curiosity followed me
Mm.
now until now as an adult, and that's why I just put it into my film. Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And when you're speaking, it just, that everything you've described was exactly my experience at home as well. Like, I was witness to my mother experiencing the same thing, and the way she dealt with it was like not to talk about it and to find different ways to channel that healing process, which, yeah, this is why the film, watching it, really moved me. Like, it just resonated. And I'm sure, like you've said, there's lots of like similarities in other people's upbringing and their mum, and how, even like our elders, how we communicate and how we don't. So beautiful approach. I love it so much. And I love to draw now. It was a really good segue in talking about the spiritual stuff and, the magic of the world. And I'd love to draw some attention to the creature, because when I watched it was probably one of my favorite parts of the film, and that the creature under the leaky ceilings lingers in the mind so much longer than after you've watched it. And I'd love to understand, like, do you see it more as a metaphor for Tam's inner world, or as a presence with its own agency inside the film? And how do you feel like audiences balance that ambiguity between psychological metaphor and supernatural character?
Well, I would say, um, I've came a long way with this creature. At first, it just started off in my imagination as like a wet um thingy that leads to another realm. That was my very first imagination when I wanted to um create like this visual elements for the film.
Mm,
But I think eventually it evolved.
mm,
And just to answer your question, I think I will talk about how the visual came about.
mhm,
So I was doing a bit of research about the mythological creatures in Southeast Asia. Not really doing the research for this film. Actually, it was during COVID, and I was bored. I was locked at home, and every night I would go on Reddit. No
As
sleep, so I could sleep. And I figured that if you were to search Reddit no sleep in each country, and especially Southeast Asian country, there will be a lot of stories to read. And so I just did just that. Like one night I would be reading Reddit no sleep Singapore. One night I would be reading Reddit no sleep Indonesia.
yeah.
And when it came to Philippines, there was this specific creature. I believe it's called the tick-tick. And what the tick-tick does is that it would attach itself to the roof of a
Mm,
house,
mhm.
and it loves to prey on pregnant women.
Wow.
So what it would do is that from the rooftop, it will, I don't know, somehow it will stick out its very long tongue and reaches to the female's belly, and kind of suck out the fetus from the
Whoa.
woman's belly. And so I think it's very interesting. I mean, visually is very intriguing, and it's quite scary. At one point, I was contemplating putting salt around my room. I was pregnant, so just to protect myself.
Mm,
But yeah, so that was the original inspiration for the visual of the creature in the film. Of course, it's not about tick tick. It's not about being pregnant, but in this film, it's more about energy.
mm,
Um, so um, so for me, the creature itself, to answer your question, is in a way is a manifestation of whatever Thumb has been keeping deep inside of her. Oh, it's almost like her child. In a way, like she gave birth to it. She raised it with her own negative energy and all this like repressed emotion in her. So she
mhm,
just keeps feeding it with those energy, and then um in the end, it ends up exploding and swallowing her, almost like it consumes her. So yeah, in a way, if you think about it as a separate creature, it also works. Because yeah, it's something that she gives birth to unknowingly. But for me, it's almost like mirroring her inner struggles. It's mirroring what's going on inside her.
mm.
And metaphorically, is yeah, the way that it consumes her is just to show that how she really is being consumed by this problem in real life, simply because she refuses to confront it or to find a healthy way
Yeah.
to solve it.
Wow. I'm so blown away at how that idea originated from, and I feel like I'd love to see. I'm not planting a seed or anything, but just I really want to enter that world of you reading all those stories and those myths, and there's a little anthology of all those stories from Southeast Asia and East Asia. It sounds fascinating. It's right up my street. But moving into the film more specifically, that idea really beautifully goes into something I want to expand on, because for me it connects to me really personally, and I think a lot of the Vietnamese diaspora as well, and that's the theme of healing, and that really resonated deeply in your film, and and that exploration of it. And in my experience, the Vietnamese diaspora, healing is a theme that we often struggle to talk about openly, especially around family, silence, and generational pain. So in your film, you frame infidelity not just as betrayal, but as an opening to ritual, silence, and transformation. Can you share how the idea of healing shaped your storytelling, and what kind of healing you think is really possible for Tam and even Ha?
Mm. It's very funny because I feel like in recent years the word the word healing has been kind of overused. It's almost becoming like a taboo in Vietnam because there are so many scam artists who
Wow.
opens like healing courses. We call it chữa lành, and
Mhm.
and some of my friends who actually knew people who fell victims for those kind of scam, they were so angry about it. Yeah, it's like so one of my friend and they has a very good friend, and that good friend went to one of those healing courses, and she came back and say, oh yeah, people have to be forgiving to me because I am anxiety attachment style, and that is something that I'm struggling with, and but please bear with all my bad behavior because I'm anxiety attachment. So that is like so opposite of what healing should be, and it's so funny. And
I mean, I just want to touch on that. Like, I think you've kind of opened a can of worms for me, because that idea of healing, and when we go to scams, that's a massive thing across the world. So yeah, I was really shocked because when you said it happened to my mum as well, like literally like last year, on the whole scamming and healing thing. So yeah, please do go on. I just wanted to highlight that because
yeah,
it's so traumatizing.
no, I'm very fascinated with all this. It's almost like it's a way to observe, how the human works. I don't know. We are all human, so I mean, it's not like I'm above anyone. I mean, I went through that phase. I also went through like grief and also like still in the journey of healing in the sense that like really to try to figure out, who I am and what I want in this life, especially after making Don't Cry Butterfly. There was so many questions in my mind personally.
Mm.
But back to the film. Back to the film, I feel that both Tâm and Ha, they are grieving different things, and they are in different stages of grieving. I mean, if anybody read about the stages of grieving, there's anger, there's denial, there's also negotiation,
Mhm.
depression, and also finally acceptance. So for me, Tâm is obviously in the denial stage and also negotiation stage, where at first she refuses to confront it with her husband, and she refuses to even acknowledge it within the family. It's like a big elephant in the room and nobody talked about it. And I guess this makes her very angry. And
Mm.
so Ha's way of dealing with her grief is that she's very angry with the parents. She has a lot of things that she disagree with them, but she also doesn't want to say anything because well, I suppose it's not coming from a place of understanding, but it's also coming from a place of helplessness. It's almost like she grew up witnessing all this tension and all these things that's going on with the parents. And I suppose she tried before, but now she just feel like just let them be. Because I have my own issues to deal with. Like she has an entire uncertain future in front of her. She needs to figure out who she is. and what she want to do with her life. And I guess in the early 20s, we were all very occupied with our own personal image and trying to figure out our footing in the world. So I suppose by putting her as a girl in her early 20s, with a lot of problems herself to deal with, and in a way, she just know that there's this issue in her family, and she's angry about it, she's unhappy about it, but she doesn't know how to deal with it at the moment, because she has other issues to attend to, which is totally reasonable. And so I think the most obvious way that I guess Tâm and Ha could heal is that they start talking about that problem to each other. And yeah, they should just talk and communicate. And at least even if they don't get to solve the problem, they would have somebody to be there for them. I don't think Ha feels that she has somebody to rely on, especially with the departure of Chong. He wants to stay in Vietnam, and she wants to leave because she wished that she could have a better life somewhere that is in her rose-tinted glass at the moment. But at least for her, that's her way out. But then she will be alone. And I feel that in the end, that's how she felt. Like the parents are in their own world and their own problem. They refuse to solve the problem. Her best friend is in his own world with his own problem, and now she's all alone in this world. And it's same as Tâm. I mean, she has family, she has a husband, she has a child, but she has no one that she could confide in. She has no one to express how she feels. And the only two moments in the film where we actually see her with tears, she's all alone. So I feel that it would be a long journey for the characters to even attempt to heal. I mean, they have to progress. They have to process through their grievance first.
Yes.
And go through all those stages first before they could even come to that stage of like sitting down and asking themselves what I want and how I can make myself feel better. Yeah.
I mean, again, all of your answers are so rich, and it just mirrors everything that I see in my own life. Like, even just, when you were saying that the simple solution of healing is just talking. And I think, like, in Vietnamese culture, and that familial relationship with mother and daughter, or mother and son, or whatever, is that the idea of talking is like not heard of. Like, all the things that have happened to my mom and the trauma that she's experienced, I can't seem to ask her the questions for her to respond, to have that conversation, for us to both heal in our own ways in whatever journey we want to take in life. So this film was like, just it blew me, because I wasn't sitting in front of the screen. It's like, why don't they talk? I was like, I understand. I totally understand.
I think because before you can talk to somebody, you need to talk to yourself first. And something that I observe a lot in not only in Vietnam, but like everywhere in the modern society, is that it's so noisy, right? There are so many noises outside ourselves. There are things to do, there are things to solve, and we make ourselves busy with those things that are not that important and or not really are healthy for our internal feelings. How I explain that? It's like, okay, I can be busy cleaning the house, I can be busy, making sure that it looks pretty, but like inside I'm a mess. Then and then when I'm done being busy, scrolling on social media, doing all the work, and try to, doing going through all this distraction to make myself not thinking about the real problem inside my head. And then I go to sleep, and then another day pass by, and then I get used to that feeling of like, not thinking or talking to myself like, hey, how are you doing now today? How are you feeling? What do you need for yourself? And I don't think a lot of people are taught how to talk to themselves. We just listen to other people. And that, I've been scrolling TikTok for a while doing research. um, for my film. I always feel like people judge when I say I go on TikTok, but like it's a very rich place to do research.
I
Um,
100% agree.
so yeah, so if you somebody just like listen to people talk on TikTok, 10 people would give
Mm,
you 10 different advice on how you can make yourself feel better, but you don't talk to yourself like how personally I
mm,
can make myself feel better, then it will be an issue. And I feel like in this film, it's how I was trying to tackle that.
mm,
Like Em is always busy with her work. There's always noises around her. There's always people talking to her, or
yeah,
people, doing something to her that she has no peace. She has no moment to herself that she can stop. Like she doesn't stop in the film. She doesn't have any moment that she stops. She's
so,
always moving around, doing something, being very busy.
yeah,
And she does everything but talking to herself, thinking, how am I
amazing.
feeling? And talking to the people around her. So I feel that that's a very prominent problem nowadays in our society. And yeah, so I guess they should talk to themselves and to each other.
I mean, it's so I was having a conversation with a dear friend of mine only about a week ago about internal dialogues and how important it is. And he was telling me that he'd met people that don't have any internal dialogue. And I think we are oversaturated with short form content and, like you said, doom scrolling. Like the amount of information that goes into our brains, our attention span is shorter. We don't have that time to reflect. But I feel like we're digressing. Let's go back to the film.
Yes.
But like, yes, so I wanted to draw back from the previous question and start connecting it to generations and the diaspora. And you kind of lovely put together like the relationship between mother and daughter and the non-talking. So in past interviews that I've had the pleasure to watch is that you've spoken about generational cycles in Vietnam and how daughters believe that they'll escape their mother's fates only to repeat them. So for audiences here in Orange County, especially the younger Vietnamese women who may live between two cultures, that cycle may feel even more complicated. So how do you hope diasporic women will see themselves in her and Dum's stories? And do you think the cycle shifts in the diaspora or does it just take a different shape?
Mm, For me, I feel that the cycle will always be there. We will always end up mimicking our parents in one way or another. As much as we hate it, as much as we keep telling ourselves, I will not become my parent. But
Mm-hmm.
trust me, becoming a parent myself, I mean, as a parent myself, I realized a lot of things. And one of them would be there will always be a cycle of, you know, unspoken trauma or um, all these generational problems
Mm.
that were being passed down mentally and
Yeah.
physically from the previous generation to us. I mean,
Mm.
why physically? Because it's literally in our gene. Like I just read a paper recently, and apparently our parents, if they go through some trauma, it
Mm.
will be embedded into their body. And when they give birth to us,
Mm.
that trauma will follow the DNA and it
Yeah.
will go into our body.
Wow.
And it keeps going on between different generations, right? I'm not talking about just one generation, it's like multiple generations. And especially for us female, I
Mm.
just found out that like I was inside my grandmother's body because like we exist in our mother's
Mm.
womb and our mothers exist in our grandmother's womb. So whatever it is that being passed down, it has been going on for generations, right?
We
And it's
can't.
very fascinating because sometimes you feel the pain in your body that you do not know where it comes from. So
Yeah.
now there's a scientific explanation for that. So it's not just psychological, it's really in your body. And
Mhm.
then I guess the only way that we could break the cycle is that somebody would take the work and
Mm.
do something about it. Somebody would see that, oh, my mother and my grandmother went through all these, issues, unable to communicate their needs, or they went through all these shame that were being passed down to them because of patriarchal society, because of societal expectation of them, and how do I not have to suffer from that? How can I break away from that? And so that's what I think Ha is trying to do in a way. Ironically, she's trying to break away from that, but she's still stuck in the cycle.
Yeah.
And a lot of audience ask me during the Q&A, like, why don't you just make one of them escape, or give them a way out? How can they solve the problem? But how do we even solve a generational trauma cycle
Yeah.
in one generation? No, I don't think so. We need different various generations, but it needs to start with somebody who wants to do the work and then passes down to the next generation and the next generation, and then only then we'll be able to heal. and and it's difficult. It's really difficult to face all the shame that the society have put on us.
Yeah.
Not only as a female. I mean, the film is told through the female perspective. But as you can see, the husband and her best friend, they are all going through this generational trauma cycles, and they're all struggling in their own way.
Yeah.
And somebody has to, do something to change it. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I feel like we're opening a portal of like a therapy session. It's amazing.
I told you just now that like I've changed since I first released the film until now. It's been a year, and I think the film, the conversation with the audience after watching the film, and they help me a lot, because they do ask similar questions like this, and it makes me think about not only the generational trauma that I portrayed in the film, but also um, I guess I was trying to broaden it out a little bit and to see a bigger picture, like what is it that we are all going through as I don't know, as human in the modern society, because is audience in different countries, they all ask very similar questions. So it seems to me that everyone is also going through the same kind of struggles, that they don't know where it comes from or why. And they're all trying to make it better, which is a good thing. Yeah.
Yes, there's a shift. There's a shift. But thank you for having that wonderful, insightful way of talking about healing and breaking cycles. I'd love to draw a little bit more into the technical sides of the filmmaking, especially the sound and the music and how the atmosphere was generated through that. So I felt that the sound struck me as a storytelling force that was equal to the visuals, which was stunning to experience. So, for example, the moment Tam and the audience learns of the affair is revealed through a football commentator's voice, which I thought it really blew me away the way you got that reveal. Like the boys drumming, punctuating through key scenes, Tam's work environment that layers music into her everyday life, and of course the karaoke sequence where the song seems directed straight at her. So all of these create like these really rich, like emotional textures that are so vivid without being didactic. How did you approach sound and music as a creative language in the film?
Well, sound and music, for me, they are kind of like a character in the film, in a way. So I told my um let's just separate them. So we have the composer, and then we also have our sound designer. So for the music, I told Diego, the composer, that I do not want the music to be something that would try to manipulate the audience feelings. So he kind of suffered a little bit, because I keep telling him, tone down, less, less. Like for example, like the scary scenes, I do not want the audience to feel that, oh, this is a horror film.
Right.
It's and like during the emotional scenes, I also do not want the music to come in and like make people feel sad in a way. I want it to be part of the soundscape.
Yeah.
It's almost like just coming and then come out, and people would barely notice that there were music there. Obviously, minus the scene where the music was supposed to be coming, like the
Yeah.
karaoke scenes, or especially the music for the TikTok videos. We had so much fun making them.
Oh, wow.
Uh, Yes, because those are more aggressive, like more in your face, and it's just like how I feel towards those kind of content where they really just try to manipulate how you feel as an audience.
Yeah.
So the music in the film, if you watch the film again, I hope you do, you will realize that it's really not overwhelming at all. It's really just there to enhance what is already there in the visual, which is what I love.
Mm,
And as for the sound design, is similarly, the only requirement that I told Tingy,
mm.
our sound designer, is that please make the environment as noisy as possible. Partly because I grew up in Hanoi, and every time I just walk out of the taxi to the city, right, I was like I would be greeted with this like I don't know, orchestra of
Yeah.
sound, like construction site, the honking, the people
Mhm.
talking very loudly. For me, that's like something that I miss the most when I am overseas, especially now I'm in Canada. It's always so quiet, right?
Yeah.
I just miss that noise. And I want to recreate that for the film, especially mostly because the film is set in Hanoi, but also because I really want the main character to not have a moment of quiet. Like I just mentioned to you, she's surrounded by noise,
Yeah.
by a lot of people around her, but also by all this noise.
Yeah.
And that is also just to make the audience feel that this character is really, really, really trapped, and her mind is always a mess.
Yeah.
I don't know if you got that feeling watching the film, but like for me, every time I go to Hanoi, or every time I go to a place that is very noisy,
Mhm.
I become how would I say, like overstimulated,
Mm. Yep.
and I wouldn't be able to think. And I imagine that would be
The
what
same.
happened to Tom,
Yeah.
because she's always very active and she's always trying to solve things. And I imagine that she's overstimulated all the time.
Right.
It's just that she doesn't know that she's overstimulated, right? Because she's too used to it, and that
Mm.
would somehow contribute to the fact that she doesn't speak to herself.
Yeah.
It's always very, very
Exactly that.
yeah.
Internal dialogue.
Yes. Yeah,
Mm.
so my approach to sound design was just that, and also similar to the music, it should be a soundscape. It should be a thick, layered soundscape
Mm.
that if you listen carefully, you can hear, one person coughing next door, a dog's barking, a cat is meowing, and it's just to make the whole space come to life, because in this film the house itself, I mean, we didn't talk about production design, but the house itself is a character, right? I mean, with the creature in the ceiling, the
Exactly.
house also represent the homemaker, which is them, and the house is always very gloomy and
Mm.
always it looks very messy, right? The wallpaper is like all over the place. uh, the everything is so narrow and so dark, and almost like trapped some in the middle.
Mm.
Which is also like my visual treatment for the film, is like always frame our main character through some layers, through the furnitures or through the people around her, so that it's always feel like she's so small and she's so trapped in this
Mm.
situation. Yeah, so everything actually works very hand in hand together. The
Yeah.
same treatment I told to the production designer, I told to the uh, director of photography, and I also told to the sound designer, and so told to the rest of the team, so that everything is like a cohesive work of art by everyone involved.
It is. It absolutely. I think it worked, and I think I have absolutely enjoyed you talking about the sound and the intention behind it. And I think that very much, I really felt it, like all that chaos. And I think anyone in the audience who has been to Hanoi would know that when you open that film, that's what you're experiencing. And I love that backdrop. And I think, I think it's rarely done in films where, it is part of the world rather than you trying to push an emotion or direct audiences to feel a certain way. So yeah, I commend you for doing that. It was stunning. This is why I wanted to talk about it, because I really noticed it. So I want to
Thank
go
you.
again back into like the filmmaking and the risks and bold choices. And For me, I can't believe this is your first feature film because it just literally blew me away. And I know you've done some shorts as well, but this film feels incredibly assured. And I imagine there was some real risks involved as well. So I'd love to learn a little bit about some of the bold choices that you made, whether it was artistic, financial, or cultural, and if you were worried at any point that it may not work. And now that the film is out in the world, do you feel that risk paid off in the way that you hoped?
I don't know. I feel like every single artist, whenever they create their work, there's always this moment of doubt. Like, will this work? Will people understand the intention that I put inside? Um, is it too complicated? Especially because we are telling the story visually. And also, um, yeah, I'm just sorry, just taking a moment to reflect back to the past 5 years of making the film. And back to the moment when it was just like a one-page treatment to going to film writing workshops, and there were so many questions. The first very simple question is, what kind of genre is this? Is this a horror film? Is it a fantastical film? And I guess my only answer is because I've watched crazy films from Japan, from Korea, from Hong Kong, and I grew up watching a lot of East Asian films. So for me, that's normal. For me, that's like, this is nowhere near that crazy. I mean, I've watched more crazy film. What are you talking about? Like, why can't we mix genre? So there were a lot of questions when I was writing the film already. People were asking, why is there a creature? Is it a family drama? Why is it funny? It's a very heavy subject matter. Yeah, a lot of question about tone and mood, and because I I always felt that it's very challenging to communicate to people when you're trying to create something new that they haven't seen before, and they were trying to comprehend, like, okay, so this is like that film plus that film, or this is like something I've watched before, but no, it's not the same. So it's very hard for me to communicate to people that way. So it was quite challenging at first. To answer your question, yes. Um, what were the boldest choices I made? I guess making this film was a bold choice. um, but I just think that I wouldn't be able to tell this story in any other way, because I kept making fun of myself to others. I tried to make a serious film. I did make a serious film. It's called Mother Daughter Dream,
Okay.
and it's also about infidelity. But there will be a twist. Like there will be yeah, an element of uh not normal story inside, and and many people ask me why can't you just tell like a normal sad story where people just go through the emotion like reality as it is. Um, but I don't think I can tell a story where it's just sad people walking around with sad faces and looking at each other and not talking to each other all the time, or like
Please
staring at the sky. What is the meaning of life? You know, I can't. I just can't
don't.
because I'm a talkative person. And I I love it when people just talk, but they're not communicating what they really mean or what they really feel. And I guess that's my strong point when it comes to my own humor in the film.
Mhm.
And I guess it's just a personal taste, or a personal language when it comes to cinematic language, I guess. So as much as I try to make like I always call it elegant film, poetic, quiet film. I just couldn't. So I chose to make this film the way that I make it, with all these
Yeah.
you know, magical realism elements, which is something I enjoy watching, and it's something I love, and something that I understand. Because sometimes there would be feelings or there would be pain that would be easier to be visualized, and
Mhm.
also because we are working with like audio visuals, why not just use all those to our strong point and just to use that to communicate what the character is feeling inside. Yeah, so I guess to answer the question, I cannot pinpoint a specific thing because every single thing that I made with this film will be in question.
Yeah, but I mean, I think you've answered that beautifully, and I feel like it's made me want to ask you more questions based on that. But I'm gonna conclude it with one final question. I feel like I can speak to you forever. You're so much fun, and there's so much depth in your thoughts. And I cannot wait to see what you're going to come out with next. I'm literally going to be following you everywhere. But I'd loved how you said, you know, the way you've engaged with film, like especially in East Asia, Southeast Asia. And I feel like I've done very much the same, where I was digging for the weirdest, the most unusual like stories I can find from Japan, Korea, China. I'd love to hear, and I'm sure the audiences would love to hear as well, your top 3 weirdest films that you would recommend.
It's hard. It's really hard.
Shall I give you one of mine, and then that will help maybe spur some ideas?
Okay.
But one of the films that I will never forget about, and I wrote as part of my thesis in my undergrad, was Miike Takashi's film Visitor Q. I don't know if you've ever seen that.
I think I've heard about it, but I don't really
Yeah.
watch a lot of Miike Takashi. I know I know why, but yeah, sometimes it's a bit too violent for me.
Oh, this one's not violent. This one's just weird, and it literally, there's just so many different layers of all the things that have gone wrong in the world in a family, and he puts it all in one. And then at the end, there's this beautiful story that pops up. I'm trying to not give too much away, but it's not, there's not much violence in it. Not in his other films. Yeah. So
yeah, I'll search for it. Yeah. Okay. Oh, are you waiting for my answer or what film? Oh my god. To be honest, my answer for that would change like every week because I would be feeling like, oh, this is the greatest film one day, and then the next day I'll change to the other one. But I do love works by certain directors. So I think one of my early influences was Shinja Tsukamoto, another Japanese director. I really love the handheld shots and the very intense emotion, and also weird visuals. I mean, if you dig into it, it's very dark and gloomy and weird, but like I love the way that his films are always so intense. Like you always watch it and then you walk out and you're feeling like you have to take a breather because it's so intense. Yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
Shinya
Sorry.
Tsukamoto is one of my favorite directors as well. Like he's the one who did Haze, Tetsuo, and is it Snake of June? Oh,
yes. Kotoko, and I mean his series. He just did like a trilogy about wartime in Japan, and oh my God, every time I watch, and I just need to sit there and just breathe for a moment because it's just so intense. You know, the amount of emotion that he managed to jam pack into his visuals. Another director that I love to watch. Okay, I love a lot of directors, so now I have to choose. It feels like it's unfair to those who are not being mentioned. Oh, it's very funny. During one of the Q&As in Hanoi, with a film club, like film lovers in a university, one of them pointed out after watching my short films that I might have been a fan of Hong Sang-soo, and I was like, oh, is that very obvious? But I do love Hong Sang-soo films. I just love the wicked way that he just look at human. Yeah, his earlier work I really enjoy the black humor in his work. And three, right?
Yeah. Well, you could leave it at 2 and leave the mystery of what people can guess your favorite films.
Yeah,
I
think so.
maybe, I don't know if you're on socials, but maybe you could do a series of like all the films on a weekly basis that you've watched or absolutely love, because I would totally engage with that. But I feel like, you know, I really hate doing this, but that's all the time we have for this Q&A for Don't Cry Butterfly. Lynn, honestly, thank you so much for participating in this discussion. And you know, I just, you've blown my mind. And thank you for the audience for staying with us and listening to us just go off tangent and laugh and talk about the film every now and then. And I want to say a special thank you to Anne, who was our technical support for this Q&A.
Thank you so much for having us, and have a good day
Evening, day.
or evening, or whenever you are. Just all the best for the future. Bye.
Bye.